So, you received your medical education during the height of COVID-19. What was it like over
Mhm.
there during that time?
To be honest, I don't know how I survived that. During COVID, I initially going to China, there was no COVID. I went in 2017. And so
Mhm.
I at least had the opportunity to see what China was like
Yeah.
before every controls and the regulations were set in and stuff. So when it started in 2020, when I first heard about it, it was almost like a rumor. Nobody wanted to talk about it. But then it got very
Mhm.
serious where the school had to enclose, they literally nailed fences around the school so that no one would go out. So a
Yeah.
self-imposed quarantine. Uh,
Hmm.
and then classes were shifted from face to face to being online. So we
Hmm.
had to do exams online, classes online, and the teachers, I know, some of them, their English is good. However, we had mostly Chinese teachers, right? Chinese teachers. However, not all of them could speak perfect English. And so there was some difficulty learning, but we figured out a way to do it
Hmm.
in China. And so I think during that time, it was very challenging because
Okay.
because sometimes the food was lacking. We weren't
Mm.
able to go out to the banks. We had to get permission to leave the campus. Worse, if you wanted to travel to a different city, you couldn't leave of your own free will. The
Oh.
government put an like how would I say it? A quarantine on several cities certain times.
Oh.
So nothing at all could enter the city. No new like if you wanted
Right.
water, food products and all
Okay.
that stuff, it was very difficult. And so I think during that time it was very challenging, but we pulled through.
What you pulled through, right? Oh, I
Yeah.
can imagine what was happening over there during that time.
Mhm.
Now, what is the food like? I mean, did you get any no Jamaican food at all, right?
So China, Chinese cuisine is very diverse. There are a lot of Chinese people, and so whether you go north, south, or the different cities, they have their own unique style of cooking. In Anhui, there is a famous style of cooking called Hui Chan or Hui food. Essentially, it's um, a lot of. Have you ever had? Let me ask you. Have you ever had something called Chou Gui Yu? It's a fish. It's like a smelly fish. It smells bad, but it's
Yeah.
very delicious. It's originally from Anhui province. It's a part of Huicai. And so during my stay in China, I got to taste different cities, their food, their specialties, and yes, we had Jamaican food there.
Okay,
My
really?
yeah, my university actually had, I think, half of the students, or even more, half of that would be Jamaican students. So a lot of Jamaican students are there. I think it's the
Really?
most popular place for Jamaican students in China today,
Okay.
outside of Beijing, maybe. Yeah,
Anyway,
Anhui. Yeah, a
yeah.
lot of Jamaicans are there, mostly students, but we get to have our own community in a sense. We have
Hmm.
an online group where we can buy, the stuff from Jamaica. We can order
Oh,
anything we want. Yeah, so it was very feasible. It wasn't almost, um, it wasn't hard in a sense. Yeah, of
that's
course,
interesting. Okay.
original Jamaican food, but it did its job. It
It
did its
did
job.
it, yeah, it helped. Okay. Now, I was under the impression that you studied traditional Chinese medicine,
Oh, okay.
right? And you said
Mhm.
that your specialty was
My specialty is clinical medicine and surgery.
and clinical
Yeah,
medicine surgery. Okay.
right.
Now, that's great. Have you done any surgeries at all yet?
Well, during our study in were able to go into the operating room and observe and do surgeries.
Oh,
I
you're
was
into.
gonna do my postgraduate studies also in China. However, I decided to in come back to Jamaica. That's a long story, but if I were to have done that, that would give me the opportunity to do surgery of my own and be under the teacher there. Yeah,
So, okay, so you took a course in traditional Chinese medicine, right?
right.
What areas of Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, did you learn about?
Okay,
I'm
so
I'm just
traditional
curious about a
Chinese
few things.
medicine. So we learn from the actual people who practice traditional Chinese medicine in China, in Anhui province. Almost the on a general level, the majority of what Chinese medicine entails. For example, acupuncture,
Hmm.
moxibuction, using herbs, root bark, or even animals, snakes to do.
Really?
Yeah, it's very serious, and they actually work. Yeah, and so I had the opportunity this year, I think, in to visit Guozhou. It's a city close to Anhui province, city close to Hefei city. Um, there we have the largest production facility of Chinese medicine in the world. And
Oh,
so we were able to see all sorts of food stuff, of herbs, of grains, of all the different kind of
and
things that they have
snakes.
there. Yeah, snake skins and stuff. Yeah. It's,
The idea of the snake oil is probably true, right? Okay. Um, when I say I was curious, right? Did you see
mhm.
any similarities between the bush medicine that we might use in Jamaica, in comparison to what they use there?
I
Um,
think it's very similar, very similar. The thing about Jamaican herb is that if it was in China, they'd be using it too, I guess. And in Jamaica, it's rather limited to plant life.
yeah.
To what I know, I don't know much about Jamaican herbal medicine, but in China, I know that they use whatever they can in nature, they can find in nature to help um, a person feel better holistically. So it's
Okay.
not just about looking at a symptom and say, yes, this is your problem. We want to find the entire by looking at you, observing you, what's the problem. And so I think the only issue I have with Chinese medicine is the lack of study in most of the plant life, the herbs that they use, unlike um, Western medicine as we know it.
Now, we read that you are planning to pursue orthopedic surgery.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
So initially, after graduating this year, I wanted to do orthopedic surgery. However, I made the decision to come back to Jamaica and do internship here instead. If I were to have done orthopedic surgery, I would have still been in China for 3 more years. But looking at the political climate and even missing home, I
Yeah.
wanted to be back in Jamaica. I was there for 6 full years without any time for family, so I really wanted to come back.
Did you ever travel back to Jamaica
No,
during that
I
time?
didn't.
No?
I didn't. It was a
Oh my
long trip,
gosh.
and the money was too much, so I
Oh,
just stayed there for the full 6 years.
I want to ask you, what advice would you give to young, aspiring Jamaicans, right, that may want to follow in your footsteps?
Mhm.
And what advice would you give them, as far as staying focused on their education and
Okay,
trying to see their dreams?
I definitely believe that if you want to pursue medicine, think about it before you make that decision. Every day of medical school, I question if this is what I really wanted,
Oh,
and it should not be a hasty decision because it will impact your life some way or another. And if that's the decision you want to make, go right ahead and do it. It's fulfilling because of the joy and the health that you can give to your patient, and to see someone well, that's the best feeling ever. And whoever you are, whatever situation you are in, there is always hope. There is always some
You're
means
definitely
because
an
I didn't have
inspiration.
the opportunity. I didn't have the money. After
Mm.
I left Cornwall, I had to work for a year. I didn't have the money to travel to China to do medicine. But luckily, I was able to get a scholarship from friends, and they pushed me. Kingsley and Dan Malcolm, I must say their names. They were the ones who funded majority of my fees while I was in China. They saw my story online and was willing to help this poor boy from Chambers Pen who they didn't
Nice.
know, but were willing to see some potential in me to be a good doctor in the future. And so I'm proud that they were able to choose me as their own. And
Oh,
being that I was in China for 6 years, let me know that if I could do it, you could do it. You can do it too.
oh yes.
Wherever you are, if you're a little boy from a ghetto community, you can make something of your life.
You are definitely a role model. Such an inspiration to, young
Thank you.
people. Yeah, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you very much.
It was very nice talking with you and
You
getting to
too.
know you and understanding your journey. And I look forward to hearing more about you in the future, as you continue your studies, your endeavors. So thank you, Dr. Bowen. Hope to meet with you again real soon, okay?
Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you. You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.